CDL Practice Test, Texas, Air Brake, Part 9. Question number 213. Some air brake systems include an alcohol evaporator. It adds alcohol to the air system to help A. Decrease the tank's temperature. B. Reduce the need to drain the tank. C. Remove oil from the air tank. D. Reduce the chances of ice in the brake valves. The correct answer is here, D. Reduce the chances of ice in the brake valves. Explanation. An alcohol evaporator will add alcohol to your air brake system. Because alcohol doesn't freeze as easily as water, it reduces the chances of ice building up in the brake valves during cold weather. However, you still need to drain your air tanks at the end of each driving day. Question number 214. In which of the following situations should you not apply the parking brakes? A. If you're parking for less than 1 hour. B. When you are testing whether they will hold the vehicle. C. If the brakes are very hot. The correct answer is here, C. If the brakes are very hot. Explanation. If the brakes are too hot, avoid using the parking brakes because the heat may warp and damage the brakes. Also avoid using the parking brakes if they are wet and at risk of freezing. If the parking brakes freeze, your vehicle will be immobilized. In both of these situations, use wheel chocks instead. Question number 215. Which of the following can cause brakes to fade or fail? A. Brakes being out of adjustment. B. Not relying enough on engine braking. C. Excessive use of the service brakes. D. All of the answers. The correct answer is here, D. All of the answers. Explanation. Brake fade and failure are usually due to incorrect use of the brakes that causes excess heat. This may be caused by incorrect brake adjustment, not enough reliance on engine braking, excessive use of the service brakes, another mechanical factor, or human error. Question number 217. If you do not have an automatic tank drain, when should you drain your air tanks? A. Once a week. B. At the end of each working day. C. After every 4 hours of service. The correct answer is here, B. At the end of each working day. Explanation. Oil and water can start to collect in the bottom of an air tank and can cause failure if it's not drained. Unless your vehicle automatically drains the air tanks, you should drain them at the end of each working day so the moisture and oil will not freeze or coagulate and cause your brakes to fail. Question number 218. If you need to stop quickly and your vehicle lacks anti-lock brakes, you can use A. The stab braking method. B. The controlled braking method. C. Both are correct. The correct answer is here, C. Both are correct. Explanation. If you need to stop quickly, use either the controlled braking method or the stab braking method. However, if your vehicle has anti-lock brakes, stab braking won't work because the wheels won't lock. Use controlled braking instead. Question number 219. What device protects the tank and the rest of the air brake system from too much pressure? A. Application pressure gauge. B. Air tank drain. C. Governor. D. Safety valve. The correct answer here. D. Safety valve. Explanation. The safety valve is set to automatically open at a certain C, typically about 150 C. This is to ensure the tank does not build up too much pressure, which can be dangerous. Question number 220. The stoplight switch, A, tells you when the air brake system's air pressure is low. B, tells you when you need to use your emergency brakes. C, turns on the brake lights when you brake. The correct answer is here. C, turns on the brake lights when you brake. Explanation. The stoplight switch is an electric switch triggered by air pressure. When you apply the service brakes, the stoplight switch turns on the brake lights. Question number 221. Under ideal conditions, the average driver of a truck or bus equipped with air brakes and traveling at 55 miles per hour would require what stopping distance? A, 100 to 250 feet. B, 300 to 350 feet. C, more than 400 feet. The correct answer is here. C, more than 400 feet. Explanation. The stopping distance equals the sum of the perception distance, reaction distance, brake lag distance, and braking distance. Under ideal conditions, the average driver of a bus or large truck equipped with air brakes and traveling at 55 miles per hour would require about 451 feet to come to a complete stop. The length of a football field including the two end zones is 360 feet. Question number 222. You can test the air compressor governor by A, performing a visual check. B, by increasing and decreasing the air pressure. C, by using the air brakes and monitoring the pressure gauges while traveling less than 40 miles per hour. The correct answer is here. B, by increasing and decreasing the air pressure. Explanation. The air compressor governor should cut in when a lower air pressure is reached and cut out when a higher air pressure is reached. Open bracket. Check your manufacturer's specifications for these pressures. To test this, run the engine at a fast idle to raise the air pressure until the air compressor governor cuts out. Then keep stepping on and off the brake pedal to reduce the air pressure until the air compressor governor cuts in. Question number 223. Which of the following is not part of the air brake system? A, radio signal system. B, parking brake system. C, service brake system. D, emergency brake system. The correct answer is here. A, radio signal system. Explanation. The air brakes are made up of three systems: the service brake, the parking brake, and the emergency brake. Before your knowledge test, review the Texas Commercial Motor Vehicle Driver's Handbook to familiarize yourself with what each one does. Question number 224. How would you check your truck's slack adjusters? A. Park on level ground, turn off the parking brakes, and press the brake pedal. B. Park on an incline and see if the vehicle rolls. C. Park on level ground, turn off the parking brakes, and pull hard on each slack adjuster. It shouldn't move more than 1 inch. The correct answer's here. C. Park on level ground, turn off the parking brakes, and pull hard on each slack adjuster. It shouldn't move more than 1 inch. Explanation. To check the slack adjusters, try to pull on them manually while wearing gloves. If there is an inch or more of give, then there is an issue and they should be fixed. Question number 225. A tank endorsement is A. Only required when transporting gases. B. Only required when transporting liquids. C. Optional when transporting hazardous materials. D. Used when transporting both liquids and gases. The correct answer's here. D. Used when transporting both liquids and gases. Explanation. In general, a tank endorsement is required to a drive tank vehicle used to transport liquids or gases. This applies to both hazardous and non-hazardous materials. Question number 226. The parking brake should be A. Used while driving. B. Set when driving in bad weather. C. Used to stop the vehicle in normal driving. D. Used whenever you park the vehicle. The correct answer's here. D. Used whenever you park the vehicle. Explanation. The parking brake should be applied every time you park your vehicle. Question number 227. How would you check your truck's slack adjusters? A. Press the brake pedal while listening for any strange noises. B. Accelerate, then brake hard. C. Use gloves and pull hard on each slack adjuster you can reach. D. All of the above will work. The correct answer's here. C. Use gloves and pull hard on each slack adjuster you can reach. Explanation. To check the slack adjusters, try to pull on them manually while wearing gloves. If there is an inch or more of give, there is an issue and they should be fixed. Question number 228. Why must you pass a knowledge test on air brakes? A. Otherwise, you will not be able to obtain a CDL at all. B. All trucks have air brakes. C. Otherwise, you will have to get a CDL with restrictions. D. Otherwise, you will only be able to obtain a commercial learner's permit. The correct answer's here. C. Otherwise, you will have to get a CDL with restrictions. Explanation. If you do not pass the air brake knowledge test, your CDL will include restriction L, which will limit you to driving vehicles without air brakes. So, good luck. Question number 229. To correct a drive wheel braking skid, you should A. Brake harder. B. Brake harder, turn quickly, and come to steer. C. Stop braking, turn quickly, and come to steer. The correct answers here. C. Stop braking, turn quickly, and come to steer. Explanation. To recover from a drive wheel braking skid, first stop braking. The rear wheels will unlock and roll again, so there will be no more tendency to slide sideways. Then quickly steer your vehicle back on course. You may find that your vehicle will overshoot and keep on turning, possibly skidding in the opposite direction. Counter steer to counteract this. Note, this maneuver takes some practice. You should become proficient in it before you actually need to use it. Question number 230. During your final air brake check, if the air pressure does not build up fast enough, A. The alcohol evaporator may be low. B. Have the problem fixed after your trip is over. C. The air pressure may drop too low during driving. The correct answers here. C. The air pressure may drop too low during driving. Explanation. The manufacturer's specification should state how fast the air pressure should build up once the engine has reached normal operating speed. If the air pressure does not build up fast enough during your final air brake check, the air pressure may not replenish quickly enough during normal braking either. Don't drive the vehicle until the cause has been found and corrected. Question number 231. The air loss rate for a straight truck or bus with the engine off and the brakes on should not be more than A. 3C in 1 minute, B. 1C in 1 minute, C. 2C in 45 seconds. The correct answers here. A. 3C in 1 minute. Explanation. When testing for an air leak, you should turn off the engine and hold the brake for 1 minute. The air pressure should not drop more than 3C in that 1 minute. Question number 232. The total stopping distance for air brakes is longer than that for hydraulic brakes because of A. Reaction distance, B. Brake fade, C. Brake lag. The correct answers here. C. Brake lag. Explanation. When you depress the brake pedal on a vehicle with air brakes, there will be a lag of about a half second before the air flows through the lines to reach the brakes. This will add to your total stopping distance. Question number 234. Before starting down a hill, you should be in the proper gear. A. So you can go through the gears on the way down. B. So you can coast downhill. C. So you only have to apply the brake just hard enough to feel a definite slowdown. The correct answers here. C. So you only have to apply the brake just hard enough to feel a definite slowdown. Explanation. Starting down a hill, you should put your vehicle in a low gear and use the brakes just enough to keep you near your safe speed. Question number 235. Why is it especially important to have your brakes adjusted before going down steep grades? A. It can cause your slack adjusters to fail. B. It will cause more of a strain on the air compressor. C. It is not any more important than at any other time. D. Some brakes will do more work than others. The correct answers here. D. Some brakes will do more work than others. Explanation. When the brakes have not been properly balanced, it will cause some brakes to do more work than others. This will heat up these brakes and they will lose their stopping power. Question number 236. A low air pressure warning comes on before what? C. A. 70 C. B. 80 C. C. 50 C. D. 60 C. The correct answer is here. D. 60 C. Explanation. A low air pressure warning, such as a red light and or a buzzer, must come on before the air tank falls below 60 C, or 0.5 the compressor governor cutout pressure on some older vehicles. Question number 237. What controls the parking brakes in newer vehicles? A. A knob located next to the steering wheel. B. A circular, red labeled switch. C. A spring-loaded lever. D. A diamond-shaped, yellow, push-pull control knob. The correct answer is here. D. A diamond-shaped, yellow, push-pull control knob. Explanation. The diamond-shaped, yellow, push-pull control knob is the control for the parking brakes in newer vehicles. It must be pulled out to put the parking brakes on and pushed in to release them. Question number 238. To check the slack adjusters on S-cam drum brakes, you should first, A. Park on level ground and drain off the air pressure. B. Park on level ground, chock the wheels, and release the parking brakes. C. Stop on level ground and apply the parking brakes. The correct answer is here. B. Park on level ground, chock the wheels, and release the parking brakes. Explanation. Chock the wheels so you can release the parking brakes safely. Then put on gloves and pull hard on each slack adjuster you can reach. If it moves more than about 1 inch, it needs to be adjusted. Question number 239. Failing to drain the tanks in an air brake system can result in A. Squishy brakes. B. Too much air collecting. C. Too much fuel being carried. D. Water freezing and causing brake failure. The correct answer is here. D. Water freezing and causing brake failure. Explanation. In an air brake system, the air storage tanks must be drained to remove accumulated water and compressor oil. Failing to do this can cause damage. For example, water that has built up in the system could freeze in cold weather and cause brake failure. Question number 240. To test the air leakage rate, one must turn off the engine. With a fully charged air system, turn the key to the on position, release the service brake, and A. Measure the C as the air pressure gauge falls from its original amount. B. Measure the amount of pressure in the system. Then come back in about 30 minutes and measure the pressure again. C. Time how long it takes for the air compressor governor to cut in. D. Time the air pressure drop. The correct answer is here. D. Time the air pressure drop. Explanation. Timing the air pressure drop can determine if the vehicle is losing too much air pressure too quickly. This can cause loss of brakes while driving.